So imagine you're in a crowd of people, 30,000 people, and you're all walking towards one specific event. And you think in this moment that maybe it's a happy event with this many people showing up, but it is not. It is for the people in the crowd, but of course for the person they're going to see somebody get hung. And that person is one of the most deadliest poisoners that England has ever had. Today we're going to be talking about William Parker. If you guys are new here, my name is Brandy. I do dark history and also put makeup on my face while I do it. I list the makeup I use below, but mostly I just tell the dark history story. And today we're talking about William Palmer, who was a doctor. And the reason we're going to talk about him is because poisoners, as we know the cures to the poisons. Okay, they know how to administer poisons to where you can get sick or you can use it as a doctor should. Well, when King James changed the word from shamans and witches in the Bible to poisoners, this gave poisoners a bad name. Not every witch is a poisoner, as we know, because we have to have knowledge of poisons in order to help cure somebody if they are sick. If we know what they've ingested, then we can heal it. And so let's just think about that today as I go through this story. This is not a good man, not even a little bit. And I'm just telling you guys heads up that this is a well-deserved hanging that these 30,000 people are going to watch. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this done and get this party started. Okay, so who was William Palmer? William Palmer was born on August 6th of 1824. Okay, he was born in Rugley, Staffordshire. That was a tough one to say. Staffordshire. And he was 6 of 8 children. So he had a lot of brothers and sisters and things like that. And his mother and father were Sarah and Joseph Palmer as well. And this man's nickname was the Prince of Poisoners, okay? Or the Rugley Poisoner. Like, he is a really just a bad dude. Just not a good dude whatsoever, okay? When we think about William Palmer. But we have to do the bad with the good. You know what I mean? His father was a sawyer, but something happened to his father. We're not really sure what, but he died when William was 12 years old. And it left his mother a very large sum of money, and that sum was about 70,000 pounds, okay? And so after this, when our boy William gets older, he's like 17 years old, and he is being an apprentice at a Liverpool chemist, okay? Because this guy goes on to be a doctor. But he ends up getting fired from that job because he was stealing money. Now, William had a really bad habit, okay? He had a really bad gambling habit. He was a gambling addict, okay? He was betting on horses. He was always at the track. It didn't matter what was going on. He was at the track and he was spending money, but he wasn't ever winning anything, you know? So he ends up starting to borrow money. So William started studying medicine in London, and by 1846 he was a doctor, and he was a doctor at St. Bartholomew Hospital. Yeah, he was. Now, when he gets out of school, okay, and he goes back home to, was it Rugley? Yeah. He is evidently in love with somebody else's wife, or is having an affair with somebody else's wife. And he challenges the guy to a drinking contest, okay? And so this poor guy, they end up having this drinking contest. I mean, the guy was married to the woman, so it's not like they were drinking for her, you know what I mean? Like as in a competition. I mean, it was a competition, but you know what I'm saying. So these dudes, they're drinking, you know, and all of a sudden, old dude is, the other guy, not William, is really, really messed up. Really messed up. And so he goes home, and he ends up, as soon as he gets home, he collapses and he dies. Okay. And so this is, of course, where I thought, oh, okay, well, he's probably going to marry the chick, you know, but no, he doesn't. But that's the first time. Now, poison was not suspected in that incident. They just thought maybe the guy drank too much and probably had a heart attack or a stroke or something like that, and that was that. And so, of course, what does that do? That gives our man William a lot of confidence. It's like, huh, so I can do this poison thing and I can actually get away with it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's not. He's such a bad dude. He ends up marrying a girl named Anne Thornton, and she was like 20 years old when they got married. Yeah. And he marries her because he thinks that her mother has a lot of money, because Anne's dad was in the military and her dad had left this life on his own, by his own accord. I don't know how else to say that without getting in trouble. And so when he left, her mom got, you know, some money, obviously, because the same thing had happened to William's mom. You know, his mom had gotten some money when his dad passed away. And so he was trying to get his hands on Anne's mother's small fortune that she had gotten from when her husband passed away. Literally the only reason why he married Anne is so he could get this money. So, of course, Anne ends up lending money to William, you know, because William's like, oh, you know, I'm your son-in-law and blah, 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 and you're so awesome, and it would really help the family and stuff like that. And so, of course, she obliges, and it's not too long after that she goes and she decides to go stay with her son-in-law and her daughter. And it wasn't 2 weeks after that she died. That time it was determined to be a stroke as well, okay? And, you know, but people are starting to think. They're starting to think, but that's okay. They can think all they want until they have some proof, right? He thought that when Anne's mom died, he was going to get all this money. Well, turns out that she didn't have quite as much money as he was thinking that she did, okay? And of course, he did take the money though, and he still would go to the track, and he would gamble, and he would lose, and then he would borrow, and then he would gamble, and then he would lose, borrow, gamble, blah, 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 and it just kept on going. Now, William and this guy named Leonard decide to go to the track together, right? They're just gonna go to the track, and they're gonna hang out, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. And his friend ends up winning a lot of money. And so later on that night, and now this guy is actually a guy that would lend money to William so that he could gamble as well. But as we know, and I'm going to tell you, this is like a continuation of what this man does. He just continuously borrows money and loses it. Like, he never ever really wins. Unfortunately, he is not that lucky. And so he's hanging out with this guy one night, and he knows he owes this William knows that he owes this guy some money. And so the guy's going to eventually come to collect. And while he's with him, they end up going, I think he goes over to William's house, and the man ends up coming down with a really, really bad pain. And so he leaves, but somehow the money that Blyden had won at the track disappeared. So old dude, William, had stolen the money from what his friend had won from the track and killed him too. Now, let's talk about what's he killing these people with? You know what I mean? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, his poisons of choice, strychnine, okay? Now, strychnine, like I said, came from the seeds of the NYX vomica tree, and some other family plants like the Stratonius family plants. I'm not really sure about plants, like scientific names. But it was first discovered and founded by some French guy in 1818, and it was actually used as like rat poison to kill like small animals and stuff like that. And then of course it was going on to use as some kind of tonic. It would help stimulate people. It would kind of pep them up a little bit. It would give them it would kind of depress their appetites, and it would give them an appetite and stuff like that. He was still married to Anne, and they had 5 children, although only one of those kids would live. Okay, only one, and that would be, of course, his firstborn, who was his son. His son would actually end up outliving him. And what happened to the other kids, you ask? Oh, it's a great question, and I will definitely tell you. This man poisoned each and every single one of his kids except for his firstborn. Oh yes, he did. And I'm going to tell you who they are and how they died and their names and all that fun stuff. Elizabeth Palmer died at 2.5 months old. Okay. Henry Palmer died at 1 month old. Frank Palmer, 7 hours old, like fresh from the oven, cute, adorable little baby, decides to go on ahead and go ahead and knock his own family member out. And then last is John Palmer, who's 4 days old. Okay, they all died from convulsions. Now let's talk about what he would do and what poisons he liked to use. He liked to use strychnine. In large doses for people, it creates convulsions and asphyxiation, and that's what happened to all 3 of his kids, is they were convulsing and then they stopped breathing. You know why he did this? He did this because he didn't want to have more mouths to feed. This is how much money he was spending and how much he owed out in debts. Okay, and how crazy and buck wild this guy is when it comes to money. He would rather kill his own family members than just like get right. You know, I mean, give me a break here. So what exactly does strychnine do when it kills you? Well, not only does it make you convulse and stop breathing, okay, it does this thing to the enzymes of your body that controls your movement. So not only are you convulsing, you have absolutely no control over it whatsoever, okay? It attacks the nervous system and causes the muscles to contract, making the body twist and contort in pain. The face muscles, okay, stretch because of the nerve, whatever is attacking the nerves of the body. And so the muscles of the face stretch so it looks like these people are smiling as they're dying in absolute, complete, and utter agony. They have this smile on their face and they eventually stop breathing, but the person's brain is still alive, so they're still fully conscious of what's going on, only they can't breathe. Okay, but their brain is like on swole somehow. It is absolutely one of the worst poisons that they've ever come across, I would have to say. Strychnine is not used obviously anymore. You used to be able to get it over the counter, and you can't do it anymore. And so what would our homeboy do with this, you ask? Well, I shall tell you. He would dip his finger in strychnine or antimony. He used antimony as well. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But he would dip his finger in this strychnine, and he would dip his finger in the sugar at the same time, okay? And so the sugar, he would stick his finger into the child's mouth and like let him suck from his finger this poison, and that's how he killed his 4 kids, okay? Even though they never proved this, I mean, come on. They all die from the same thing. give me a break. There's something going on there, you know, like what is going on? But crazily, he's not blamed yet because during this time there was a high infant mortality rate, okay? And so, yeah, he wasn't blamed for anything quite yet. And so he ends up moving on, and, you know, he's still with Anne, of course. And he's trying to do his best with the money situation, but it is not coming up good because his creditors are coming to him and they're like, look, bro, if you don't start paying us, we're going to start telling some folks what's happening, because he was doing some shady stuff. Before we talk about that shady stuff, I got to tell you what antimony is. It's a silvery, gray, metallic element. Okay. Now, when you get poisoned with this is something that it's not just something that you're going to get over and everything is going to be fine. No, it is, you literally have to have like a blood transfusion to get the poison out of your body. And they also have to give you demercapol to help excrete the poison from your body, along with like a blood transfusion, basically. The symptoms are gastroenteritis, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and then your kidneys fail. But it happens so fast, and only takes like 100 milligrams to 200 for a person for it to be, you know, toxic. And so it inactivates enzymes in the body, and then the body starts killing the red blood cells in your blood. And then that's when your kidney starts to shut down, and then it's like, so this was William's two favorite little poisons that he would go to, even though one of them, strychnine, was used, you know, in a medical way. He did not use them in a medical way as a doctor should. So in 1854, he decides, I'm gonna start forging my mom's name and pay off some of these creditors or whatnot, because, you know, his mom had some money from when his dad passed. Okay, well, that wasn't enough. Of course it wasn't enough. That wasn't enough for him. He started taking out life insurance policies. Oh yes, he did. He started taking out life insurance policies on people, and he took out one on his wife, who was only 27 at the time, and then she died a few months later on September 29th of 1854. So old dude William did not waste any time whatsoever with this. I mean, he just completely straight up went for it. He wanted these payouts from these insurance things so that he could gamble some more. Now, because there was a cholera outbreak, people thought that she died from cholera, but she did not, obviously, and we're going to get to that here in just a minute. So because everybody said that she died from cholera, because evidently everybody else was dying from cholera too, so they just kind of called it that. He got the payout from the insurance company of £30,000. But you know what? This did not cover what he owed people. Not even a little bit. He owed out so much. And, you know, he didn't have enough money. So he was having to take out life insurance policies. And he didn't stop with his wife. Oh no. Oh, hell no. He started taking out insurance policies on a lot of people. So, like I say, the $13,000 did not cover his creditors, and they threatened to expose William. Yeah. So William took a policy out on his brother. His brother's name was Walter, and you know, Walter he wasn't that healthy because he drank a lot. Okay, and he actually ended up staying with William so that William could take care of him, but also supply him with all the alcohol that he could possibly need. Because why? He's done taking a life insurance policy out on his brother, okay? And now they wouldn't really give him a policy. The other place that he was going to get policies, they wouldn't really give him one for his brother in this case, okay, unfortunately. So he had to go to another place because his brother, I guess, was so ill, and because the insurance companies knew that he was a drunk, you know, they didn't want to put all their money into that. William starts giving Walter, his brother, all the alcohol in the world. And what does he do? All he's got to do is drop some poison into one of these bottles, and there goes Walter. Poof. So Walter dies on August 16th of 1855. I mean, that is not long, okay? And they did not pay out on that insurance because they started to get a little bit fishy, especially when he took a life insurance policy out on one of his own farmhands, okay? And that guy died too. So the farmhand wasn't worth but like $10,000, I think, or something like that. And like I say, the insurance company decides to send out an investigator, and they're going to look into this because this is it is weird, you know, to lose that many people in that short of amount of time and to be taking out that many life insurance policies out. But they did not find anything wrong. They didn't find any evidence of foul play, you know, because like I say, Walter was drunk and you know, had supposedly died from cholera or whatnot. By 1855, y'all, this man was drowning in debt. Like, he owed so many people, so many creditors he owed. And so they started, you know, kind of going off the mouth again about how, all right, we're going to go and like tell your mom. Yeah. They said they were going to go tell his mom. And, you know, he did not want that. Obviously, he did not want that. Because his mom was also a source of money to him, you know, because she had that huge lump sum that she got. And so then he had an affair with his housemaid, Eliza Farm. And on July 27th of 1855, she gives birth to a son. And everything's great. But of course, this means for William, what does it mean? It means this is another mouth for him to feed. You know, he's already killed 4 of his other kids. And he has an affair with somebody else, and yeah, that happened. So there you go. Now he's got another mouth he's got to feed. So what is he going to do? So he goes to the track, because that's what you do when you don't have any money. You go gamble some more, right? That makes so much sense. Like it. Oh my God. So William hatches a plan. He plans on killing this man named John Cook. Because John Cook was kind of a sickly dude. But he had inherited some money. Yeah. And of course, William found out about it. And this is actually one of his little buddies from the track. They'd go down there and they would do their thing down there together and win some money. And so one day, in November of 1855, like I said, this is when old dude is desperate. He really needs money, okay? They go to the track, and he had borrowed some money from John, and they both bet on separate horses. Well, John's horse paid out. He paid out a lot for that time, you know. And unfortunately, William's horse did not pay out, okay? And so Cook had won 3,000 pounds, which that's kind of a lot to be betting on some horses, you know. When I say track, I mean horses. They were like, so William, of course, was like, hey man, let's go celebrate. Let's go celebrate your awesome victory of winning, you know, 300 pounds or 3,000 pounds on this horse. You know, let's go celebrate. You deserve this. So they go to a local little watering hole or whatever, hole in the wall bar. And they're in there and they're just drinking. They're having a good time. And so William sends over a bottle of gin and is like, hey man, this is for you, dude, because you deserve it. You know, you won so much money today and all this other stuff, you know, it was awesome. And so I had this gin. And so, of course, he starts drinking it like right in the middle of the bar. John does. All of a sudden, John's clutching his throat. And he's like, oh my God, I can't breathe. It's burning. It's burning the back of my throat. John is immediately sick. I mean, immediately sick. and he's throwing up and all this other kind of stuff, and it's kind of making like a ruckus, you know. People were kind of like, oh my God, what is happening over there? William, of course, the doctor, rushes over and he's like, I'm gonna help him. But what's he do? He slips him a few pieces of strychnine, okay, like into his, I don't know if it was into his mouth or whatnot, but that finished the job, okay. He became really, really ill, and then once old dude gave him 3 grains of the strychnine, Cook screamed, he couldn't breathe, and the way he died was his back was arched, and of course his face, his muscles pulled taut on his face, and it just like the most painful, and he was frozen like that, like he just, and that's how John Cook died. And all this took place like in the bar where they were at, celebrating this man's victory at the track, okay. Well, you'll never guess what William decides to do literally right after this man's death. I'm not kidding. It's just right afterwards. Freaking William decides to go and collect Cook's money that he won at the track. Yeah, he did that. He's like, oh, I can go collect it on his behalf right after this man dies. And not only that, he actually messes with the first post-mortem, like autopsy thing. The doctor that did it was like 80 something odd years old, and so of course with William being a doctor, he made his way on in there and took a part of this. They took a part of the stomach as evidence because they were going to test it for poison, straight up, because this had to have been a poisoning, because he sent the bottle over, dude drank it and immediately got sick, and then once William tried to help him, he died. And so it had to have been that, right? So William takes the stomach of John and like tries to hide it, okay? And he's successful in doing so. He hides it. And they have to do a second post-mortem, okay? But it doesn't matter if they didn't have the first one or not, because when they got to court, the doctor was like, this man straight up poisoned this other man. Like, there are no ifs, ands, or buts about this. He poisoned him. From all the accounts of people at the bar and everything like that, yeah, this guy had gotten poisoned with strychnine. So, because of what the doctor said about the poisoning, this brought on the basically digging up the bodies of his wife and his brother, Walter. So Anne and Walter were dug up so that they could examine their body and see if they had been poisoned or not. Now, Walter's body, unfortunately, was very much so decayed. That could have been from the poison, or it could have been from the alcohol, so they couldn't really do anything with his stuff. Anne had a very high trace of antimony in her system, and as we all know, there's only one way to get rid of that, and that's, with a blood transfusion. So because they found the antimony, they couldn't find anything with Walter, but they did find a couple of scientists that said that they had sold William some strychnine, okay? But neither, the strychnine wasn't found in either one of the two bodies that they dug up. And so then prosecutors presented to the judge, hey, this dude trying to avoid going to like loaner's jail, basically, when you owe too much money, you go to jail for that. Yeah, debtor's jail, debtors. And so because they were like, oh, he's got that much debt and that much is going on, okay, then he's probably killing people for money. So they had a trial. Yeah, they did. All that fun stuff. And he was found guilty, okay? And he was sentenced to be hung. Now, some people did not like this. Some people were upset by this, okay? Because they didn't think that they had enough evidence against him to say that he was poisoning people. It wasn't until things started popping out, like especially about him They caught him writing prescriptions to himself for strychnine and for opium. And so when little things like that started coming out, people were like, "Oh, gross." You know what I mean? Like, this is not a good thing. Then June comes, June 14th, 1856. 30,000 folks gathered at the platform. And let me tell you, was something funny about this dude, William. He gets up to the platform and he asks the little executioner guy, "Is this platform steady enough to hold me?" Not like he was a big dude or anything like that, but yeah. Like he was really worried about that. And of course, they asked him, "Do you want to confess? You know, do you want to confess to what you did?" And no, he did not. He was like, "No, I'm good. I'm good." But it's really what happens after his death. Okay, so they hang him, which is almost like a witch trial. Okay, I mean, that's what I'm saying. They hang these people, and they hang him, and not only that, they decide to sell off pieces of the noose they used to hang him with as little souvenirs. They sold them for like 5 shillings a piece. They cut up the long rope they used, they cut it up into pieces, and they made money off of it. Okay. Not only that, they made 2 death masks from his body. And what a death mask is when they put some kind of a plaster or something over the person's face so they can have a mold of it, whether they want to remember that person or if it's like a sculptor type person that's wanting to have that and use it for a sculpture type deal. They just did, and that's what they called it, a death mask. But they also did life masks, because of course they did a mask of you while you were still alive. But they did 2 of the death masks for him, and they placed him in a sack and buried it in a mass grave underneath the prison chapel window. He basically poisoned his family and friends for money, straight up, because he couldn't stop his gambling addiction. He couldn't handle his money situation, and he was riding off the back of his mom from what his dad had left. Even though she had 8 children, he was 6 of 8 kids. She had a lot of kids and a lot of family to take care of. But he was a very selfish man. He definitely deserved what he got, because this is some serial killer type stuff. The fact that the age limit of his kids just got younger and younger and younger. It's like he couldn't even wait to get rid of them. It's insane to me. It's just insane to me. This story, I had to do something about poisoners, and this one jumped out. Another one jumped out at me too that I'm actually going to do this week. But that is the story of William Palmer, and basically how he was, the king of poisoners, or the prince of poisoners, excuse me, in England. And yeah, next week we're going to talk about the woman side of it in England. Basically, their first woman serial killer in England is like who we're going to talk about next week, but she also used poison to her advantage as well. So that's our story for today. I hope you guys liked it. I know it was a little bit different than talking about witch trials and things like that, but since they call us poisoners, I'm going to do poison. And we talked about strychnine today, and that's just something you don't want to mess with, point blank period. It is used in some medical ways, it said, but you have to know exact dosage and things like that, the person's weight, their height, all that stuff, in order for it to work, or it could really, really, really hurt somebody. So I hope you guys liked this one today. I really enjoyed researching it, because I got a new book. That's always awesome. I love books. So if you didn't know that, I'm sure you do. I read a lot of books when I'm doing this, because you can get a lot of information off the internet, but I like having a book in my hand, and I like the way books smell, and I'm super weird like that. But anyway, so that's our story for today, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you've had a great weekend. I'm sorry, my dog's been walking around a lot. The wind's blowing from a storm last night, and so they're just kind of restless. I hope that didn't bother you guys too much. So, but anyways, I love you. And if nobody's told you today, I love you, and I hope you guys have a great week.